Well, folks, today we got a big video for you guys all about a ton of Nash Weedle rumors. If you don't know why we talk about Nash Weedle, he's just had a lot of stuff correct this year for Nintendo Switch 2. And yeah, we talked yesterday about how he actually said a Nintendo Direct is happening in the second week, a general Direct, the second week of September. That went along with Switch Force saying, well, it's happening on a Friday. It's happening on the 12th, which is a very weird day to do a general Direct, but there's that. And look, there was a Video Game Chronicle as well saying that, hey, they also heard a Nintendo Direct is happening in the middle of September. So we have to just note all of that because, hey, there's like multiple sources for it. And that leads into the conversation today because Nash Weedle and Attack the Backlog sat down for a podcast on Attack the Backlog's channel and talked about a lot of things, not just the Nintendo Direct, other things like certain times when we're going to hear release dates for games, new games that are coming to Nintendo Switch 2, and more than that, how about a massive celebration for Zelda's 40th anniversary? That's right. You know we had to use that for the title because it's a huge section in here. But there's a whole bunch of rumors all put together, and I'm not going to be timestamping this video because I compiled the list after watching the hour-long podcast. It's in Spanish. You can see it right here. Again, shout out to them. There's English subtitles. Got to give a big shout out to Attack the Backlog for putting those English subtitles in so I could even get this information. I'm really excited for this. Before we dive in, I just want to remind you, we are giving away 5 copies of Kirby Air Riders. You can enter through the link down in the pinned comment or the description. Also, we're on a road to 160,000 subscribers. We're getting really close, guys. We're almost to 159K. So if you would subscribe to the channel, if you're enjoying the content, I would appreciate it. Always remember as well, rumors are meant to be taken with grains of salt. Do not just suddenly think that this is all just big facts. So as we said here, there's this podcast from Attack the Backlog, which is the guy on the left. You guys might recognize him. He's been on the Nintendo Byte podcast. And then Nash Weedle, who unfortunately doesn't speak English, or I would probably ask him to come on the Nintendo Byte podcast. But it's one of those things that unfortunately, maybe it could work where I get Nash on with Attack the Backlog, but then Attack the Backlog will be doing like live translating to what Nash says. And I think that is, I think that would be a very hard podcast episode to do. That said, we need to get into everything, and I compiled it all and posted it over on X because there's just so much, and I know I'm going to have to read a lot of this stuff, so I figured I'd just put it in a nice, concise list publicly so I could go over it easily in this video without just like throwing up Nintendo Direct footage or something. So here it is. Again, all of it comes from there. This is a summary. I put a link to it. Here we go. Nash Weedle notes that DLSS implementation in games for Switch 2, even from Nintendo, will primarily begin next year because they upgraded it on the platform this year. He uses Elden Ring as an example in the interview, I suppose, the podcast, because it has a partnership with FSR, meaning it was never built to run with DLSS, and DLSS is likely not being used in the current demos we see, obviously, of Elden Ring for Switch 2, and could possibly get updated down the line to support it, helping improve performance. And speaking of Elden Ring on Switch 2, he also wanted to take this opportunity to call out media's bias. Again, this is his opinion. Because on PlayStation 5, day one, Elden Ring would experience massive frame drops from 60 FPS to 25 FPS, but the media didn't really complain, instead calling it Game of the Year. But now there are frame drops on Switch 2. It's a problem, even though the actual drops are much smaller compared to the target frame rate. He also did note, of course, that From Software mostly fixes these issues over multiple patches, which could still happen to this version as well. Now, look, I don't want to speak too much on the Elden Ring stuff because the bottom line is I'm going to get an opportunity later this week to actually go hands-on with Elden Ring on Switch 2 myself. I'm going to be recording the best possible footage I can, and I will be able to report back to you after that what's going on, obviously, with the demo. It is notable the demo is not the final version of the game. It's usually months old demo. So whenever the game launches, it can launch or with a day one patch, will probably run a little bit better. But From Software is known to have performance issues at launch that they just patch over time. So we'll have to wait and see. But let's get into the fun part of this because, look, Elden Ring's old news at this point, right? Well, kind of, besides the fact that we need a release date. So Day for Night Studio met with Nintendo at Gamescom. I forgot to put Gamescom in there. That is David Soliani's new studio, or David Soliani's new studio. I forgot the E there. The guy who was the director of both Mario plus Rabbids games. Now, I want to note, he doesn't work at Ubisoft anymore, so this isn't about Mario plus Rabbids, and his studio has not announced a new game. It's just notable that he met with Nintendo. He's a huge Nintendo fan, so whatever project they're working on, they probably want to bring it to Switch 2, and that's probably what the meeting was about. Unfortunately, we don't know what that game is because nothing's been announced by that studio. Next, this is where the Zelda stuff. We're not making you wait for that title. In January, a marketing campaign begins with several dates related to Zelda. He doesn't know what it's for. Again, this is a rumor. Multiple dates would suggest it's not the movie or not just the movie, and it's possible Age of Imprisonment is coming out in January or February. So it might be related to that, but what's weird is he was told that this is a marketing campaign that will last all year. They have several marked dates throughout the year all about Zelda, probably for the 40th. Now, he doesn't know what these dates are for other than Zelda. That's all he's really been told. Now, he didn't seem to know at the time of recording the podcast that it was actually Zelda's 40th anniversary next year. That is the most logical thing for there to be a year-long celebration. It happens in February. I think it's February 21st is the official 40th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda's release in Japan. So I can see there being just a complete year-long celebration. So that would be pretty cool. Obviously, theme park updates, because we know there's probably a Zelda section coming. Obviously, we could expect movie updates maybe towards the end of the year. But what's really exciting is that it begins in January. So they already have something Zelda they want to talk about in January. I don't know what that could be. Maybe it's just Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, or if that game's already come out, maybe they want to pre-announce an Ocarina of Time remake, or maybe Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. Maybe all three of those games are coming next year as they make a big emphasis on Zelda's 40th in 2025. And the crazy thing is, chances are Mario's 40th hasn't even come to an end and will probably run until like the movie comes out. But hey, we'll have to wait and see. He said there's Mario stuff happening next year too, but that the focus is really going to be heavily on Zelda, and Nintendo maybe wants Zelda to be like a stamp on Switch 2 in year 2. Does that mean we're going to see, not release, but see the new 3D Zelda next year? A summer direct that teases a new 3D Zelda would be pretty sick. I know we're starting to hype something that's like a year away, but hey, I can't help it, okay? I am a Zelda nerd. I came into this industry covering Zelda, and I am still here, hyped for Zelda as always. So the idea that Nintendo might have a year-long celebration, obviously give me your speculation on what you think Nintendo might be doing for Zelda's 40th for the course of a whole calendar year, 12 months. Let me know what you think down below. All right, next up, Nintendo is returning to horror. That's right. He's not saying that like they might return. They're working on something currently that's a return to horror. He's also heard some things about Eternal Darkness, whether it's a remake or a second game. He's not really sure if this is actually related to Nintendo returning to horror. It is notable. Eternal Darkness is like the only game Nintendo has that technically was published by them that is officially a horror game. People do bring up Emio the Smiling Man, but that's actually a detective game that deals with a serial killer. And well, that might scare some people. Most people don't consider that part of the horror genre, despite the thematics of the purple and everything. But Eternal Darkness is very much a horror style game. So is that what's coming back, or is it something else entirely? Don't know, but Nintendo has something horror in the works. All right. As we said before, the second week of September for a general direct, but let's get some new direct information here. So first, he reiterated his previous statement that it will have a release date for Metroid Prime 4 in that direct, along with an announcement for a Metroid Prime 4 direct, but also there will be dates for Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, Elden Ring, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, and there's going to be a ton of big third-party games showing up from like the big companies. We're talking like the big AAA studios. I don't obviously know what those games are. He didn't tease any of them, but yeah. I think this is just in general, most people's expectations of the general direct bare minimum is to get release dates for all the currently announced big games and have new big third-party games announced. So obviously, what we want to know is there going to be new big Nintendo games announced? I'm guessing yes. We just don't know what those games will be. All right. He was asked about, we got to get to this first one. They don't know for sure, but things seem to be lining up for the 40th anniversary direct potentially next week. Now, again, they talked about this for a little bit on the show, and this summary it's weird because they basically both say they don't know when the Mario 40th direct is outside of it being next month, but they also both note that like the information around this is like super locked down, which I've talked about before because It's only about Mario, so it's only going to come from internal Nintendo. You're not going to hear external things about this. I think this is very interesting. It did come in the first week 5 years ago, right, for the 25th anniversary, or sorry, the 35th anniversary. They did do it in the first week of September. They both think that the Direct lines up best to be before the General Direct. So that could be back-to-back weeks with some sort of Direct sort of presentation, but one's just an anniversary thing. So maybe I'm coming off PAX West to cover a Mario 40th Direct next week. That would be pretty sick, I got to be honest. Next up, he was asked about Animal Crossing because he had some rumors on Animal Crossing earlier this year. I'm not going to recap those rumors right now. But when he last heard things, the game was supposed to be out next year. He'll update when he hears more. So he's not guaranteeing that Animal Crossing is next year, but that was part of his rumor earlier this year, is that it's a 2026 game. And, he hasn't heard anything else since then. So those rumors still stand until he gets updated information. The more I think about that, like, let's say there's a Mario game next year. I don't know if there will be a 3D Mario game, but let's say there is one. Let's say there's also some Zelda stuff. Would Animal Crossing also be that year? I mean, I guess maybe if it's a remake or remaster of Zelda, which isn't a new game, so then, but there's going to be more than just Zelda games next year. But yeah, we'll see. Obviously, I would love for Animal Crossing to be next year and come very early in the generation, because that likely means they would have a full generation of plans for updates for that game. All right, next up, and again, maybe this is in the Direct, but he didn't say it would be, Doom the Dark Ages is coming to Switch 2. Now, look, this isn't the first time we've heard rumors around this game coming, but this is just a nice reminder that, Doom the Dark Ages is coming. He said he hasn't heard anything about Switch 2 editions of things like Doom Eternal or the original Doom 2016. It's not saying that can't happen, but that just doesn't seem to be the plan right now. The plan is to get Doom the Dark Ages on Switch 2, which makes sense. That game came out this year. They're ready to move on. That's the current version of Doom. There's no real reason to bring the old ones back, at least at this point. You can play them through backwards compatibility, though. And then it just says there's a little more, not necessarily related to Nintendo, and a bunch of fun conversations on the actual podcast, making a video about this. You can check out the podcast from Attack the Backlog and Nash Weedle there. Again, I didn't want to go over, that's like all the big stuff. There's some other rumors in there about some stuff happening at other companies. And so I wanted to make sure that stuff was left alone so you guys can go and discover it for yourself. Again, he does have English subtitles. Forgive him for his typos. He was very tired doing the stuff to try to get this out in a timely manner. He recorded this on Sunday, but I appreciate him putting the work in to do those subtitles. I appreciate him allowing us to have a smidge of this news before all. I want to be very clear. This rumor about a general Nintendo Direct being in the second week of September, that was before Switch Force said anything and before Video Game Chronicles said anything. The very first people to say this was Nash Weedle. He's the one who said it, and we literally have the proof all over Twitter and on my live stream even before it got posted on Twitter. So anyways, all right, guys, that's going to do it. Nice, short, succinct. You guys have a lovely day. I got lots of planning and stuff going on with PAX West right now. I want to note that it does appear we are planning a gathering of some sort. What is it? On Saturday night out at PAX, a gathering at a pub or something, a bar, with other content creators, but we are more than welcome to allow fans to come and visit and chat with us and all that stuff. I don't have the details on it just yet, where it's going to be and what time we're doing it, but it looks like Saturday night if you live in the Seattle, Washington area. If you want a chance to meet us and you're not going to PAX, or it's just really hard to bump into us at PAX because we're running around too much, there's going to be an opportunity to meet us, maybe have a beer with your favorite YouTuber and shoot the shit. It also seems like we might be going to a karaoke bar. Look, my audience knows how much if you come to my live streams, you know how much I love karaoke. So it's like a one night only in public with my fellow content creators hearing Nintendo Prime drop that karaoke bars. So we'll see what happens. Catch you guys in the next video.